I saved $3 hiding peanut butter in a bush for 2 months. I had leftover peanut butter when I was away from home, and I wasn't able to easily bring it back home to Sydney. So instead, I put it in a bush for 2 months, hid it, and then picked it up again. I organized for my Sydney-based company Perla to have all of the employees have a 3-day retreat up in the Gold Coast. It was meant to be a way that the team could come together for a few days to work together and enjoy the beach and the scenery in the evening. We do these kinds of trips twice a year, and we afford it because our whole team works remotely throughout the year. So we essentially save that money that we'd normally spend on an office and give the team a chance to come together in a nice place for a few days. So on a Tuesday morning, we went to Sydney Airport, jumped on a plane, and headed up to the Gold Coast. What does this have to do with peanut butter? I decided that I could save money by having a really big breakfast and skipping lunch. And that big breakfast that I wanted to eat, which is apple and cinnamon oats, overnight oats, with some blueberries and peanut butter on top. So I had to go buy these. I went to Coles in Coolangatta, I looked around, found all the groceries, and then I got to the peanut butter section. I wasn't sure what peanut butter to get, but there was one of those really nice natural peanut butters that I don't normally buy, and it was on special, and I thought, screw it. You know, it's a nice few days. Let's really just enjoy those oats a little bit more. So there I am, day 1, day 2, and then I wake up on day 3, and as I scoop out the bit of peanut butter for my breakfast, I realize I've got about 1/3 of the jar left, and I thought, oh my God, what am I gonna do with this, right? Now your first thought is, I'll just take it home, right? Like a good person trying to save food or save money. Put it in your bag, take it home. But here was the complicated part. I was hopping on a plane to South Korea from Brisbane, so I had to get to Brisbane and then hop on a plane to South Korea for a week or so, and then flying back to Sydney. And I was doing this, I got the flights really cheap. I think they were about $350. So really good deal I couldn't turn down. So I was really left with just a few options here. Option 1 was take it with me. Put it on the plane, take it to South Korea, take it back home, carry it around for a couple of weeks. But I was flying Jetstar, I only had carry-on, I was already at the limits of what I could bring, and I was really worried about Jetstar and their kind of classic scales and FPOS machine demons walking around the airport trying to take the money off you, so I thought that might not be the best idea. Option 2 was I could give it to one of my employees. Now, that's a viable idea. I give it to one of my very kind employees and I say, you know what, I'll see you in the month for the next kind of, team meetup. Can you hold on to this? But I figure my employees already think I'm crazy enough without me handing them a 1/3 full jar of peanut butter and saying, can you bring this back to me in a month? That might tip them over the edge in terms of what they think about me. Option 3 was to kind of give it to a stranger. I've tried to do this before, but I've learned it doesn't work naturally, because if you have an opened jar of any food and you try and hand it to someone who doesn't know you, they're not going to take it. So I was really thinking, okay, this is just food in the bin. However, I had a last minute thought. I'm coming back to the Sunshine Coast in 2 months. And what does this trip and the Sunshine Coast trip have in common? The fact that they both go through Brisbane. So then I had my idea. I'll hide the peanut butter in Brisbane and pick it up in 2 months, hoping that it's okay and it doesn't kind of get eaten in the wild. I loved this option. It had the exact amount of insanity to it that I normally love with these kinds of crazy plans. So on a Friday afternoon, when our retreat ended, the team hopped on a plane to Sydney and I hopped on a bus to a station, then a train into Brisbane. Now I had about an hour here to figure out what I'm going to do with the peanut butter. I started looking around different parks. There are a few spots there, but my biggest worry was the really nice parks with lots of trees. I thought, surely people maintain this. They probably know what's in the bushes and they probably check for rubbish and other things. So it was really trying to find a spot that I thought would kind of be safe for a couple of months. And just when I was starting to think that, again, maybe I've complicated this too much and there might not be a location that works, I found these bushes just on the edge of Roma Street Parklands. And there were these big, thick bushes and I thought, they look pretty sturdy, they don't need a lot of maintaining. So I found the bush, I took a deep breath, I grabbed the peanut butter, put it in the bush, tucked it away and said, farewell, hopefully I'll see you in 2 months. After that, I went to the airport, hopped on my plane to South Korea, had my little trip. Now we fast forward 2 months. I'm past my trip to South Korea. I'm about to hop on the plane to go to the Sunshine Coast to visit my sister. It's a short flight up to the Sunshine Coast. She picks me up from the airport, takes me back to her place. All I can think about is the peanut butter in the bush in Brisbane. And the next morning I woke up, went to Landsborough Station, caught a train down to Brisbane, headed to near the parklands where the peanut butter was. It was a horrible morning. It was rainy and wet and gross, and it's starting to sprinkle. And I go back to the spot near where I hid the peanut butter, and I'm trying to remember exactly where it might be. So I'm reaching into the bushes, I'm like leaning over them, getting my shirt wet, my arms muddy. I'm trying not to damage the bushes, trying to figure out where it is. I just can't find it. All I'm feeling is dirt on the ground. It was disgusting. Just when I was like, maybe it's gone, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna look up the video I took of me putting it in the bush. So I look up that video and I think, oh, I've been looking in the wrong spot the whole time. So I go a few extra meters down, gently trying to reach around. And after about 30 seconds of looking, I feel something slippery, glassy on my fingers, and I think, oh my God, it's still there. So I reach in properly, I grab it, I pull it out. It's there, but it is covered in dirt. It looks like it's just been rolled around for weeks. I was super excited. I never thought I'd see this, jar of peanut butter again. So I take the jar, I take it down to the Westfield in the Brisbane CBD. I find the bathroom there. I start washing it in the bathroom. I'm trying to do it so that no one can really see me. It wasn't that much dirt, but I didn't want someone to watch me like washing dirt off a peanut butter jar in the Westfield. Even I have a little bit of shame somewhere. And I finally clean it off and I take the lid off. The lid kind of surprised me. I thought because the lid was on that the whole lid would kind of be clean. You think about lids as covering the food, but that was where I kind of learned how lids work, and I learned that the part of the lid that's on the rim, everything inside of that was clean. There was peanut butter there. It was perfect. No dirt, no dust, no anything. So I take the peanut butter, go back to my sister's, give it one last clean, and then I take it with me and enjoy my last couple of meals with the oats and peanut butter. It was some of the best tasting breakfasts I've ever had. The satisfaction you get from saving a few dollars over 2 months. I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking, that's weird, or that's disgusting, or some other, permutation of that. And I know how people think with this stuff. So over the last little while, I've been thinking, what was the point of all that? Did it even make any sense? I guess the real question I ask myself is it even worth it? Was it a good idea to do that? Sure, you save a little bit of money. Sure, the food was okay. But we can't spend hours of our lives trying to save a couple of dollars. But I also don't subscribe to the idea that time is money to the nth degree, and that we can somehow decide on what's worth trying to save money just based on our hourly wage or something like that. So my working summary at the time of this recording is I will try and save money where I can, as long as I think there's an opportunity for learning or growth. In this particular case, I learned about peanut butter, food safety, its shelf life, the flora of Brisbane, how lids work in jars, how parks are maintained, all of these things that I feel like made me think more deeply about the world. And I think that's really cool. The last question, naturally, is would I do it again? Probably not. But at least I know I can. I know what to expect. And I take comfort in knowing that I understand just a little bit more about how the world works. If you want to hear more about my stupid stories and adventures, make sure you subscribe.